And because of the swipe of my pen, that person could be arrested. They could sit in jail for at least 48 hours. They could lose time from work, and their family maybe lose their job. They'd have to come out of their own pocket to help hire a lawyer. They'd lose standing in their community. All because of the swipe of my pen. Weeks later, I could dismiss the charges, but their life would forever be changed.
That's suspicious.
As we've been discussing for quite a while now, the Kamala Harris campaign is going to eventually start to flounder, okay? She had this grace period where it was exciting that she replaced Joe Biden. Then, of course, you have the DNC, which was electric, according to the left. But now we're starting to see some cracks appear in her campaign. And we know this because the left is actually starting to come out and say, hey, we got a couple of problems. You're not giving interviews, and we're noticing your voter base really isn't as solid as it could be. So let's begin with Don Lemon actually recognizing this very fact over on MSNBC. But before we get to the video, please like and comment so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
You interviewed a lot of people. What are some of the things or trends that surprised you about some of those conversations?
Well, I don't know if it was surprising, but it was certainly eye-opening to hear so many people, even people of color and women, saying that they are going to support Donald Trump. I'm not quite sure that the polls are accurate as it relates to the tightening of the polls and who's going to support whom. And, you know, right-wing media, you know, when I released my content, they said, oh, Don Lemon was shocked or Don Lemon was surprised at the answers that he got. But there were a lot of black men, Jen, who said that they were supporting Donald Trump simply because he gave them a stimulus check. He gave them $1,200 back when he was president. They did not somehow remember that the current president also gave them a stimulus check, except that his name wasn't on it. So I had to remind them time after time that the check did not come from Donald Trump, that it came from a Democratic Congress, and he actually slowed it up in order to have his name on the check. So when they got the check and his name was on it, they automatically thought that it came directly from Donald Trump, which I think is good marketing. It's the same as he does for buildings around the country, especially in New York.
So two big takeaways there. Don Lemon doesn't believe the polling, right? Who else doesn't believe the polling? Me. Remember, Kamala Harris went from the least popular to all of a sudden beating Trump by 5 or 7 points. It doesn't make any sense, okay? So that's the first big eye-opening revelation that Don Lemon is going through. And the second, of course, is seeing how many people of color and women actually support Donald Trump. Now, he's basically saying it's because, oh, he gave them free checks, right? So I guess doing exactly what the Democrats always say they're going to do isn't a good thing when you're Donald Trump. But basically, I think it boils down to remembering the economy. I've said this so many times. We can compare Joe Biden's economy to Donald Trump's economy. And which one do people remember with fondness? The one that was actually prosperous, not this whole made-up facade about Bidenomics actually working, which, by the way, Kamala Harris is running away from. And by the way, to get back to the polling, let's look over here, right? So even the left-wing pollsters have to start coming around. Here we can see that Nate Silver's 538 back on August 14th had Harris up 56 to Donald Trump's 42. And now on August 27th, Harris is down to 51 compared to Donald Trump's 48. That's a 5-point swing more so in each direction. Okay. And this, of course, is from Nate Silver, who, by the way, a few weeks ago, before Kamala Harris had this meteoric rise, actually had her pegged as losing to Donald Trump. So once again, even his models, he's seeing this steep decline in just 2 weeks from where Harris was supposedly destroying Trump to now all of a sudden, oh, she's up by a smidgen. And if you look at this graphic down here, guess which way the trends are going. So this is going to continue. And by the way, we have a myriad of polls, right? You have CNBC, you have Fox, you have Rasmussen, you have Trafalgar, you have Echelon Insights, and now looking at Nate Silver trending towards the way we actually see it happening. And as I've been mentioning, the closer we get to the election, the more these pollsters can't hide the truth because they want to maintain a semblance of credibility, okay? However, who's actually gaining all this momentum? It is, of course, Donald Trump. We had the recent endorsement from RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, which really, of course, has the left worried because Trump is actually showing that he's gaining in more momentum and taking away from Kamala Harris. All that would be left, of course, is something along the lines of a Joe Rogan. Now, I know in the past he says he's not going to have Donald Trump on his podcast. However, we have an interesting clip we want to look at, and this very topic first being discussed over on CNN.
Now, this is Stephen Miller. This is what he says about the Trump coalition. Trump has built a new coalition that's bigger than the GOP. Conservatives, independents, FDR and Kennedy Democrats, old school liberals, blue collar populists, anti-war activists, foreign policy realists, economic nationalists. Everyone but the corrupt ruling class. Are all those people in your Republican Party?
Well, they have built a campaign of people who deeply, deeply, deeply distrust institutions, government, and sort of the Washington elites. I mean, that is the ethos of this campaign. RFK fits into that. Tulsi Gabbard fits into that. I'm not sure how much endorsements matter. I will say this. Because his name is Kennedy, he will draw a crowd. I mean, you got to remember, Trump's ticket to victory.
That's the problem.
Well, but
and then he's going to speak.
Depends on the crowd, doesn't it? I mean, his ticket to victory are these low propensity male, working class male vote, the Joe Rogan audience, and sneer at them at your own peril, because if they get excited about RFK or they think it's if he says Trump's okay, we're going to turn out and vote. That's how Trump changes the composition of the electorate, through that kind of voter. So. You can make fun of them, and they do say strange things, but there's a coalition of people that are into it.
So when you're having Trump on?
I don't know.
Okay. The look
I don't know. Maybe.
Looks like you got something.
Maybe.
Okay, good. That's good. I think that's...
look, at a certain point in time, it's just like... It would be interesting to hear his perspective on a lot of things. I would like to know, what is it like when you actually get into office? I would like to know things like, what is it like versus perception?
Yeah.
What is it actually like when you get in that building? Like, what are you greeted with? When do you know that people are fucking with you? When do you know that the intelligence agency is lying to you? Like, when you decided to fire Comey, what was the thought? How much did you know? Like, what's the machine like? What is the deep state really like? Really like? Because we have all these, smoky room perceptions, like from the Bill Hicks joke, where they show you the Kennedy assassination from an angle you've never seen before. What is the machine that runs this country? Because it's very clear that it's not as simple as elected representatives that are doing the will of the people.
Joe Rogan, of course, has this huge audience. And this is one thing where Donald Trump, I think, made an actual misstep in his campaign, was going after Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan represents a core of people who aren't necessarily political, but love hearing about interesting things, hearing all this stuff being discussed. And Joe Rogan loves to have those discussions. So kind of going after Joe Rogan, I think, was a misstep on Donald Trump's part. But who knows what the heck could happen? Joe Rogan has a good sense of humor, and so does Donald Trump. They could come together, especially in the light of the RFK Jr. endorsement, and of course with the threat of a Harris presidency. And that, of course, would be huge, because this could get more views than the Elon Musk Trump interview. All right? This could be even bigger than that. And juxtapose that with someone who doesn't actually give any interviews whatsoever. Oh, wait, hold on. There actually will be an interview this Thursday. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are going to sit down with CNN. Okay. It takes two to make a thing go right, apparently, because they don't trust Kamala Harris to come out and give any coherent statements on her own. So they're pairing her up with Walz, who apparently can give a good interview when he can stop talking about communism in China for 1 second. So she's finally saying, yes, I will sit down for my first interview in 4 weeks ever since I became the Democrat nominee for president. So good job for Kamala Harris. Now, one other thing to recognize, of course, is that under the Biden-Harris administration, everything has gone to crap, and that American dream seems to be getting further and further away, specifically from Gen Z males. All right. And where are they going to go? Right into the arms of Donald Trump. Check this out.
And the title is Many Gen Z Men Feel Left Behind, and some see Trump as an answer. And here's a quote from it. On the other are young men, some of whom feel that rapidly changing gender roles have left them behind socially and economically, and see former President Donald Trump as a champion of traditional manhood. Jamil, what's your reaction to that quote?
My reaction is, well, first, when I think about that, I think of when President Biden was first in office. There was a honeymoon period until he tried to pull out of Afghanistan. And that's when he crushed one of my biggest dreams, which was serving in the military right after I graduated college. So then I look at a lot of the friends that I have who are male around my age. They want to have homes. They want to start families. They want to make a lot of money. We all have these individual dreams. And then we start to see that it's becoming less and less possible. I have guy friends who have finance degrees who are now baristas because they can't find a job. So I think in the Biden administration, a lot of our dreams are being crushed or hindered. But when we see Trump, we saw everything that happened in 2019 when Kamala Harris even said that prices are cheaper, buying a home was cheaper, maintaining family order and safety was a lot manageable. So I think that's what men my age are relating to.
Yes, from the New York Times. They've actually run a few hit pieces on Kamala Harris, surprisingly enough, talking about how she's not giving interviews, talking about how she's got no charisma, talking about how the DNC didn't address any issues to bring in voters. It was all just red meat for their leftist base. And of course, in order to counteract that, what's Kamala Harris doing? Trying to come out and mimic Donald Trump, even on the border wall now, of all things. So yes, people recognize that under Biden-Harris, the American dream has become more difficult to obtain than ever. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and stay safe out there, people, because they're coming after you.